Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We've all got stuff going on. We've all got problems, call them challenges, part of life. Let's look at that in terms of them being solutions to your life, kind of reframe it. We're going to look at that through the eyes of somebody who does energy work, psychic healing, and so much more. She's an amazing artist as well. Sarah Lovett is back with us. Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, it's great having you back here. And yeah, a lot of us sometimes think of these things that crop up, the challenge that is before us, even before we get into the part about there being solutions for them. Are they happening for a reason? All these things that pop up?
Well, they're happening because there's some kind of an energetic block or an energetic charge in our bodies. Usually we hold that we hold things in our bodies, right? So there's an energetic charge in our energy field or in our body, and it's either an agreement that we haven't yet stepped into, right? It's like it's pushing us to step into it, or it's something that we have planned to do, right, and are working on, but could be doing better. Finding those things is not a mystery. Like they come up, we bump up against them every day, right? We're constantly dealing with our problems and our issues. People are telling us we have problems sometimes, right?
Hmm. Many of us go into the victim mode.
I know, or onto the defensive, right? The minute someone talks to us and says, you got a problem, then, but if we don't, if we can turn inward, if we can be with that experience and go, okay, this is my problem, where is it really coming from?
Hmm.
Is there often our problems are a pattern that helps us to understand ourselves more deeply or to develop in a particular way, right? We find the problems that we need in order to push us in a particular direction. So if you're an outsider, you're always an outsider. You felt rejected by your family, or you didn't feel like you were part of the group, like you were an outsider looking in, then maybe, and you probably got some harsh treatment to make you into that person that is an outsider. Like you picked up on something that didn't sync well with you or didn't appeal to you very much, and or hurt you, right? And so it made you step back and see the world from a different perspective, right? As an outsider, you're observing maybe more than you're participating, or you're participating in certain kinds of activities and not others. And I feel like these we find the things that we need in order to develop. So being an outsider might really mean that you're an independent thinker, or that you have to choose your own path or be really clear. Sometimes when we have a specific wound, it's like that is the very thing that we need to be the most clear on. It's almost like giving you the opposite picture, the thing that's lacking in your life, like I wasn't loved enough. Oh, well, then you really need to work on loving yourself, figuring out what your relationship to love is. And we often do that naturally. Love is, one of the most foundational issues, right, of being human.
Well, isn't it the thing that we all want? Everybody wants to be loved, and it's the highest energetic vibration there is, right?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, as long as it's clear, and it's kind of pure in its truth, right? If it's really true for you. I mean, there are different kinds of love, I suppose.
So what do you do when you're confronted with a challenge? It's before you're looking at it saying, how am I going to deal with that? Wow, mountain in front of me. What do you do?
Um, well, one of the first things that you might do is sit down and be with the mountain. It's like, oh, what is this mountain? Look at it from a different perspective. Can I be open and curious about the mountain? Because often we're already on the defensive, like this is a problem. But if you can look at your problem as, oh, this is a challenge, right? Challenges have better energy than problems, because we've stepped into the idea of taking it on as something that we can handle or learn to grow from.
Hmm. Uh, do you believe there's a lesson in everything? Everything that's going on, it's for us to really learn something.
I said, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we can be. Some of it's attitude, that old saying that attitude is
Mm.
something that we can always change, right? You can always have a better attitude. And attitude is kind of like character building. And how you choose to build your character is a part of your spiritual growth, right? It's fundamental, really. So when you take that perspective of, oh, what is the character growth that I'm developing from this? It might not be fun or easy sometimes, right? It doesn't automatically become a fun thing, but it can be fun, it can be enjoyable, um, if we step into it in a way. When we step into our truth, right, where we need to grow, and we become more into alignment with what we're choosing, right? We become more into alignment with our growth, with our purpose. And when we're in alignment with our purpose, then the universe sort of conspires to support us. It's like it can give us everything that it has. And if we're fighting it, it can't help us. It can't help us move through that and grow.
Do you believe that when things repeat themselves, let's say somebody gets into a relationship with somebody, doesn't really support them, then the next relationship, it's kind of the same. Next one, it's kind of the same again. And somebody looks at it and says, "Well, why, why do I keep picking these same people? What's going on here? Is it because there's a lesson to be learned? And unless we learn it, we're just going to keep repeating?"
Well, it's because there's a pattern. I mean, that is a pattern.
Mm,
And often those patterns, are things that we learned in childhood. They're beliefs that we've picked up somehow. They're also probably showing us our area of growth in some way. But the problems, that we pick up when we're children is that imprinting that we do with our parents. The very first person you imprint with is usually your mother. What does she think about money, love, relationships, housekeeping, whatever it is? You
mm,
learn from them. So you imprint your moms. If your mom has a bad attitude or a problem, or even short-term problems, right? If we're an infant and we're imprinting at that moment, because I don't know if having a baby is easy for anyone, right? It's a big transformation. Some people are better prepared. Some people move more quickly. Some people take a long time to figure it out. Some people are working out their own wounds on their children, right? So our experience as an infant imprints on us, whatever it is, and we pick up these patterns that are our challenges to work through, really. But when we suddenly understand, so what I like to do is we sit with that problem. So you have this pattern, you sit with it. And then I like to look in the body. Where do I get, where does my body crack? Where does my body get tight? Where does my body, get tense when I think about this problem? So it's usually associated with the chakras. So if your heart or your throat, often we have like a throat block, right? You start coughing or just get tight in your throat. And then I like to say, well, when did I pick this up? When did I first feel this? If the very first time you felt it was, uh, well, I usually just say, think of a number. What number comes up for you when you first think about, when you go into your throat and feel it and just be with it? Is there an age that comes up? So we start looking for when we might have picked up that feeling first. Like that's
mm.
the imprint, right? So we try and go to the earliest time that we picked it up. It might be that we get that something else has a higher charge on it, like that feeling has a big charge from when you were in high school. So we go there, whatever time we picked it up. Sometimes we have multiple imprints, right? Or places where it played out and kind of hit us more strongly than others, right? So we look at what age, and then we kind of start looking at who were we around at that time? Who did I pick that up from?
Mm.
Um, when they're infants or childhood, sometimes it's just a feeling. When we're a little older, it could be a particular date, a particular birthday party, something that happened, some specific a trip. I've seen people who are triggered by a trip, with their father, and it was not what they wanted. And so they went into this trauma around it. So once we find the trauma and then we go, oh, what was that other person that we were with? What was their attitude? What were they thinking? What was their emotion around that? And suddenly we often find that the emotion that we're playing out is their emotion. And
Ah,
that makes it so much easier to release. As soon as you realize, oh, that's not even my stuff, then you're like, oh yeah, I can let go of it. Until then, it's a big story and we're holding on to it and we're trying to figure out reasons why we're feeling that way.
wow. Wow. That, for a lot of us, that's going to be the light bulb that goes on. When you realize that you're acting on somebody else's emotions, challenges. Like, for example, let's say, let's say that your mom had a lot of anxiety. Go hypothetical here. And then later in life, you find yourself with a lot of anxiety and then think, well, it's probably hereditary. It's probably, but is it really?
We often think that. I think that it's hereditary. I think diseases sometimes are emotional energy patterns
I
too. Like
totally, totally.
I remember dating a guy who said he had beautiful curly blonde hair, and he said, well, don't get used to it because every man in our family loses their hair by the age of 30. And I'm like, well, there's a family imprint. That's
Right.
it might be
Exactly.
true. It might be true, but it could
Maybe.
be different too. It
But
could be
they always say that the majority of the stuff we deal with health wise is genetic. But the more you look at it, it really is only, and I forget the percentage, it's only like, 30%, 20 something percent
or less, maybe
or
even
less. Yeah, yeah.
like 17% or something like that. Yeah, and I think a lot of it is this family energetic imprints, or families, like our family history comes with us. And not only the bad stuff, the good stuff comes with us too. Like, for instance, when you start looking into your history, you might find that you're descended from craftsmen of some kind. And naturally, everyone in your family is creative. This is my family. They come from a craftsman background. They're builders and
Sure.
creators, and everybody in the family, and then they're artists, and then they're so it's kind of native. It's our native environment. So there's that, and that can be good. It can be a sign of where you might need to go, and you're
Hmm.
like embrace it instead of rejecting it in your own
Do you believe in past lives?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, there are two different ways to look at past lives. One is we lived this life and we had this experience, and sometimes we carry the good things, our talents and skills that we gained from the past life. So we have a certain support system that we created and are bringing with us, but we also have traumas. So past lives that come up are either these beautiful skills that we've created, or they're the traumas that we haven't resolved. The other way to look at past lives is it's an energy that you're picking up from the past, and you're carrying and the vibration of a certain person. So you're tapping into a certain kind of energy, a certain life, the pattern that someone else lived, and you've chosen to embody that in some way. So I feel like you could do either or or both, maybe.
Hmm. I I I want to share this because it ties into what we're talking about, but I've always had an affinity for the 1800s. I just love, I love looking at pictures. I love looking at the clothes, and there was photography toward the end of that century. So now you can see it, but I like the 1800s for the simplicity. A little bit of technology, but not too much. So I find out recently that I'm Lithuanian. I didn't even know I was ancestry, right? So yeah,
Right.
pretty larger degree than I would ever even imagine. And then I had a genealogist offer to look at my background. And it turns out that my father's father came from Lithuania, and he was a tailor and worked his butt off and made his way to New York City and was able to buy his family a place to live. Uh, but the whole, like, I love looking at the clothes and like, how did they even do that back then? And the guy was my, great, he was a tailor. I think there's something there.
It is.
Maybe in a past life I was in the 1800s. I don't know.
And or maybe in a past life you were a tailor, like you pick those things up.
I don't
Those
know.
kind of craftsmanship things, right, can be part of our history. Or maybe we're totally into, the new technology, and we came into the world with an intention to grow this part of the world too. So we can be forward thinking as well. I'm going to take my creative skills and I'm going to apply it to this new technology.
Right.
So it's not that we're stuck in the past, but it can give us some special talents that are just kind of natural to us.
Hmm. So it sounds like your jury is out on past lives.
Yeah, I I feel like my past lives have, I mean, I've had dreams and I've had some past life regressions, and they have always made a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have a relationship to what I'm experiencing now, and healing them. Like if it was a bad past life, I can't say any life is bad, but if it was a life that ended badly, often our traumas are bad lives that ended badly. We didn't have time to process them or clear them, or a life where we got stuck in a very restricted or limited situation. We tend to have a lot of emotion caught up in for a long period of time. So it's like a repeated trauma. Those things stick with us and we have to clear them. And,
Hmm.
we have to get over them somehow.
What's the first step for somebody if they feel like they are somewhat stuck and things aren't moving forward? How do they confront that?
Well, one way is just to be with it, like as we were saying, kind of look and see and be open and curious. What is it that I came? You could do genealogy, and that can be like getting the story on your family can be interesting and helpful. It can just kind of confirm a lot of things that maybe are happening. um, i I would say if there's trauma, um, working that out is important. It wouldn't be coming through if it wasn't something that you
Uh,
could work on, or that you need to work on, and that you need to work on, right? So if you're experiencing something really difficult and it's making a mess of your life, you have to look at it, right? It's forcing you to look at it,
it's
really. And it tends to, according to law of attraction, it gets bigger and bigger as you push it away. So you're putting energy into it by pushing it away. I don't want to see this. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want anything to do with those people or that person, whatever that is. You're actually putting energy into it. So one of the first things I like to do is to pull all my energy out of the problem. Like what happens when I just say, okay, I'm just going to energetically pull back from the problem, giving it space, right, to just be what it is. Because often we have a lot of beliefs, emotions around the problem. How do we manage the problem, right? There's all that. So all of that, we pull all of that out. That can be good for projects too. If you're working on a big project, you have a lot of energy caught up in it. You pull all of your energy out, and then all of a sudden, number one, you see how much energy you're putting into something, which could be good, but you also can give it space to breathe, and maybe even space for someone else to be helpful, right?
huh.
Like in a relationship, if you like, we tend to get enmeshed with other people who we're in one-on-one intimate relationships with. We get really tuned in. We finish their sentences, etc. We start to look like them sometimes. And every day, it's a good idea to sit down and meditate and pull all of your energy out of their space and give them all of their energy back, because it creates more space for the relationship, creates better space for communication, because you're not projecting yourself onto them. In a way, we are always interacting and exchanging energy. And if we can, for a moment, during our day, sit back and pull all of our energy back out, just get to know your own energy again, and give them space to know their own energy, then you start to see them for who they are, and they start to see you for who you are. Maybe we value each other
Hmm.
more that way. Just opens up space.
It's almost as if you're wiping the slate, just momentarily if you need to, and energetically wiping the slate.
Yeah, so then there's like a clean start, I guess, or you just recognize the foundation of what that was to begin with. Sometimes it happens when people separate, right? It's like they're all caught up in each other's space. Then finally they separate and they clear, if they can, it takes a while sometimes, clean their energy out, pull all your energy back, stop being angry, story gets shorter. And then you suddenly go, oh, well, I guess we can get along again.
Right.
We can work things out because we're not in each other's space trying with our judgments and our patterns and our pictures of who this person is or how they hurt me. Or sometimes we hold people accountable, right? When you're holding someone accountable for hurting you, I call it a hostage situation. I think we're holding someone's energy hostage until do this or do that or step up or whatever it is we want them to do. I'm not gonna, it's like a stubborn, I'm not gonna help you, or I'm not gonna be there for you, or, you're sleeping on the couch or whatever that is. And when we're holding someone's energy hostage, well, they don't have that energy to heal themselves. They probably don't recognize as much what the issue is because it gets kind of muddy. And we're also managing someone else's energy, and it's energy that we don't like very much. So we're holding this negative little bit of energy in our space, and it's not making us happy with that person. It's not going to help resolve the situation. So releasing other people's energy is a skill for sure. Valuable.
Yeah. And does it also come into under the same category of forgiveness? Like this scenario you gave, it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah. I think forgiveness is largely for ourselves. When we forgive, then we can
Sure.
release energy, right? Oh, I don't have to hold their energy anymore in my space. It gives you a big old release, a relief of having to manage something that was painful in the same way, right? You don't have to manage their energy. If they did something wrong, well, yeah, they did something wrong. Or if you feel guilty, and that's another whole story, but you can release a lot of that and see it more clearly. I mean, the whole idea is that when you release other people's energy from your space, you're dealing with your own problems, not with someone else's and your own.
Yeah. And we hang on to it. Like I'll get them. I'll get them.
Right. And how is that helping you?
Yeah, they've already moved on. They don't care, but
Right.
I know it's not easy. I totally get that.
No.
It's challenging. And then that's just the forgiveness aspect. When you think about that, you're holding that energy as well. It just even makes it harder.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's something else that you're managing.
Right, right.
And it's
Yeah.
not yours and you don't like it. You already
Yeah.
didn't like it or you wouldn't have been holding it. I feel like forgiveness is releasing other people's energy from your space. I don't think that we teach that very much in our society, is how to let go,
Right.
how to peacefully move on. And I think
True.
making separations, it is a key. It's something that we need to learn.
I completely agree with you. And we come from a society, maybe it's media, TV, movies, I don't know, of getting them back. I'm gonna get them
Yeah.
back. It's
The whole concept of good and evil is really a modern concept. Fairy tales, if you look at fairy tales, they're not about that person was an evil person. That person was not that bright sometimes, or didn't have a lot, wasn't very savvy, or was greedy, but they don't call them evil. Like they're just somebody who has a, bad attitude.
Interesting way to look at it. And it kind of releases a lot, to say, yeah, they're just not so bright. That's because if they were, they wouldn't have done what they did. So yeah, I feel bad for them. Yeah.
Learning curve, right?
Right. I kind of like that. I'm going to go with that. It kind of tempers the negativity and puts it into understanding to take away the negative and puts that person more in a position, the person that did you wrong, more of a position of feel bad for them. Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Interesting.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't respond to you in the way that you need
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because you're an idiot. But anyway, I'm kidding. Uh,
well, evil's a really big, heavy, like boulder
oh
that we're sort of carrying around. And I don't think we have to. I think we
no.
can put it down. I think we can go, where can I do some good in the world? Where can
Yeah.
I help? And maybe it's only in your community. Maybe I mean, we all have world influence right now all over the place, right? Nothing can happen in the world without a big portion of it knowing about it.
For sure.
And that's a really different burden than humans have carried in the past.
Love our talk today in terms of the perspective and going a little bit deeper and the understanding about a lot of this stuff. Sarah, how do we connect with you? Somebody's got a question, wants to learn more about what you do. How do they do that?
LovettArts.com is my website. It's Lovett, Sarah Lovett, LovettArts.com.
Awesome. Great talking with you today. Glad we did
Thank you so much.
video was fun. Like, I feel like I know you more just by doing that.
Good.
Yeah, great topic, and looking forward next time we get together.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.